minutes of the May 24th, 2023 Facility and Property Management Committee.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to correspondence shared by committee members. Anybody have anything today?
Yeah, it's a long title, Task Force on Per Diems, I'll say it that way. Has met for the final time. They have taken their recommendation and sent it to Judiciary, JPS. The 10th meeting, July 10th, looking at it for the first time. It is underway. Wait for that. What comes out, I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Anybody else have any correspondence? Hearing none, we'll move on to public input on agenda items. Mike, do we have anybody on Zoom?
Nope, nobody's on Zoom.
We don't have any public here. We can move on to discussion and approval of the purchase of Silvercrest Shelter Care. We want to have Dr. Topol, do we address anything with this, or Mike, you want to kick it off here?
Well, Bill doesn't think I work enough. That's not true. Okay. I'm joking. But it was one of the questions at the committee board is how much more we can handle, and taking a look at Silvercrest. Silvercrest is a shelter care that's up in the Mena area. Bill can probably explain a little bit more on the use and the clientele that we've got there. But he asked me to come up there and take a walk through with him and his crew, and to take a look at it with the intent of purchasing it, because the housing authority is divesting themselves of these types of properties. And we walked through. I had our carpenter go through with us. I think I had our HVAC guy with us, and we took a look at it, and it's a relatively good shaped building. About the only thing that we really saw that needs to be done in the immediate future is the roof and on the garage, and maybe some siding repairs and a door or two that would need to be repaired. Other than that, structurally as an investment, it's in much better shape than the one on Harrison Street was. So I don't see a problem from my side saying to get the building. On a side note, I've been walking through homes with my daughter looking for a house to build, and what they're going for and the condition that they're in is
Unbelievable.
disheartening, unbelievable, you know, whatever you want to call it. And I think for the price that they're willing to sell this to us for, it is a good deal.
Yeah, I would use the word miraculous.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a miracle that it's in this good a shape for that price, and that they're willing to sell it to us. I know, and I heard the comments of the county board that, you know, Mike doesn't need another property to manage, and I feel for him, and I understand that. His crew is spread out pretty thin. But in reality, we can, you know, where we can use contracted service, either for snow removal or grass cutting or things that are regular maintenance, we'll work with Mike. And, you know, right now we're using snow removal sources the same as the Nina office building, and grass cutting, and we got somebody to cut the grass. So it isn't that Mike's crew will necessarily have to do all the, you know, the maintenance. We can work together on that. But you know, the stuff like fixing the roof, obviously that's, you know, that.
No, that's the roof on the garage.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a flat roof, and the membrane is actually separated from the decking. So it's something that we'll have to contract out, but it's not a deal breaker.
No.
Could I ask about the layout? How's it laid out inside in terms of the floor plan?
Well, and that can give you and that'll tell you that. Show.
I don't have.
Okay. We don't have that.
No, but basically it's a little different than shelter care. When you guys walked into shelter care, the big great room, the kitchen was right there. This is a little older home in the sense that it's a little bit more blocked off. So you come in the main door, there's a kitchen that's there, that's that fully remodeled kitchen. But if you walk down the hallway, that's where the dining area is, and the that like living space on the first floor.
Yeah.
Instead of going toward the kitchen, if you go this way, there's some offices and then 2 bedrooms. So those
Bedrooms on the first.
2 bedrooms are on the first, yep. And then, you go down to the basement, and the basement has, when you first walk down the stairs, one side of that is all the mechanical type things that we have going on there. One area is all storage. And then the other side has, a whole room with laundry. There's like 3, washers and dryers.
Mhm.
And then go down a little farther, that's that game room and another living space that people might have seen on those pictures. It's in the basement.
Well,
I put the pictures there.
from the pictures that we've seen and what they shown at the meeting,
Yep.
it looks like this has all just been recently renovated.
The only thing that's truly been renovated recently is that kitchen. They've
Oh,
just, they've tried to keep it up
wow,
and
yeah,
keep it going.
it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, the upstairs has the additional 6 bedrooms that are up there.
So 2 on the first and 6 on the second.
Yep, yep. And as you may have heard, we're considering changing that license to co-ed so that we may have, then would use those different rooms to, if we have girls there and there's 2 girls there on the first floor. That's what we'd use that for somebody.
You're not gonna add, are you gonna add additional capacity there or?
No,
No,
Stay at
we
8.
really just need it for 8. This is, so what's unlike, shelter care is like a home where kids are coming and going constantly.
Right.
Okay, and you never know who's gonna come in, so you never can plan for what the needs are for those kids. That's why you have to have it be very acceptable and very open. In this group home, we pretty much know who's coming in and they're staying for 6 months to at the long end, maybe a couple of years.
Okay.
And so it's not a constant flow of new kids, plus we know the kids that are coming in. So we can plan better for where do we need to have a kid? Does this one need to be on first floor? Can we manage this person on second floor? So it's easier for us to manage and less involved from a building standpoint in terms of what you gotta have available.
Are your parking needs sufficient? How many vehicles can you park off street?
Probably 4 cars on the driveway.
Or,
Yeah,
is that enough?
and then there's, that's sufficient.
4 cars and then
Street parking.
garage used for storage mostly or?
No, they had a van parked in there.
Oh, okay.
It's a 2-car garage, you could have
yeah.
2 vehicles.
So you could have 6 total off street. On the street, can you park?
Both sides.
Okay.
And this building has been there and used for this purpose for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is,
19 what? I know.
well, it was 1995 or 7 or somewhere in there before I was here. And what I said on the board floor is that I have never, in my 16 years here now, I've never had anybody raise a complaint about that place,
Yeah.
from a neighbor or anybody in the community, nobody's ever complained about it. So I'm assuming, based on no news is good news, that basically Nina has very well accepted this group home where it is and nobody.
And this is the kids basically in just the Nina area, or does it cover Appleton?
No, it could be anywhere from Winnebago County, they could go there.
Okay.
And these are kids that have some legal type stuff, but we're not talking about like serious sexual perpetration or things like that. It's not where people would worry like, are my kids gonna be safe? It's for a variety of reasons, maybe some theft or that kind of stuff. Delinquency, as we used to think of it in the old days, we used to call it delinquency. We don't use that term anymore, but that's kind of who would be going in.
Okay, you don't have any public approvals required for this purchase or anything?
No, it's all zoned right, it's licensed, and our vendor, here we're lucky too, is that our current vendor, which is Family Services, wants to continue to provide services for us. So we don't have to add county staff, at least at this point. So we're, when we don't have to do that and we can make it work with a current vendor, that's what we want to do. In the case of shelter care, we couldn't anymore because LSS was getting out, and so we had to add our own county staff.
Jim, you had something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm excited about this. This is great. I believe it's in my district too.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
I don't think you've ever heard a complaint about.
No,
nothing.
so
Okay.
I'm excited about this. One of the questions I have, is there an elevator in this?
No, there's
Is
not.
that going to be a problem?
Well, Mike and I talked about that, and I think we can deal with accessibility on the first floor. We can handle whatever.
Will, do you have wheelchair accessibility?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
There's a
first,
basement, isn't there?
yeah, there is a basement.
So how did they get down to the basement?
Well,
Everything that
to looking at it at past.
Everything that they need to be at and can be able to access can be on the first floor.
Oh, okay,
And
all
we
right.
can, if something needs to happen, if we have enough space on the first floor, we already have duplicates. So that's part of why we have both those spaces, is so that to divide the kids a bit, so if somebody needs to be on the first floor the entire time, everything they need will be there.
And the accessibility standard is by regulation of the program that we're running, and we've been passed in terms of our regulations, so they have to be an issue in our regulations.
Excellent.
That you have to have access to a base where you have to have access to the second floor. So I don't think we're gonna run into a problem. And let's say we had somebody that really needed heavy accessibility or a lot of accessibility needs, and we couldn't handle it, we would probably just go to another facility that could. So, I mean, we always have the ability to find another one. The unfortunate thing is that another group home is probably gonna be counties plural away.
Okay.
So that's why we try to use our own before we go outside the county.
A follow-up question, how often is this home built and also the one that is in Oshkosh at the same time?
Not,
Where we
not,
go out of the county.
that they're both filled up fully at the same time is very unusual.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about getting another 8 rooms in there.
No, and that's shaking our head. I mean, we've been doing analysis. Every 5 years, we do another analysis on like, what do we think our needs are? And we're not thinking that we need to double the capacity or find another place. It's, we actually have been working toward using less and less of facilities where kids have to go out of their home. And we're trying to keep kids in their home and wrap community services around them, because that's the better outcome.
That is,
So if we do this right, we don't need to keep adding more, facilities. I would rather get to the point where we never need to use it again, but I can't say that. But at some point, and that may say, we only have average 2-3 kids at any one time in our group home. Maybe it's something we consider, maybe we don't have our own and maybe we just place kids out, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
and sometimes it's the parents, it's not the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, and by having the group home where it is, they're close enough with their parents and they can have a lot of interaction and we can, keep the communication and keep the work going with the family. That's a big part of it. If they're 3 counties away, how often can we get the families together to work on things and spend time together? But when they're here, they can visit them, they can have weekends, they can have family meetings and we can make that happen right inside the county.
Thank you, Doug.
Tom?
I think it's a great thing, other than it was did before, and I think Supervisor Swan wanted to, I don't know, 100,000. You go and start remodeling, it's a little bit here, a little bit there, that 100,000 is going to eat up pretty fast, because plus you're going to be hiring most of it out from what I just heard you say.
Well, what we're talking about is immediate needs to get them into the building and get it fixed. There's gonna be annual maintenance that we'll just roll into our normal budget. And it all comes down to setting priorities on what we have to do. We've walked through the area and I don't think Annette or Bill has said that they really are looking at any kind of remodeling in the near future. We may have to do carpeting, but we have our carpet replacement program that we replace the carpeting throughout all of our facilities.
You keep saying you get them in immediately, they're in there already, and I heard that we're all set, they can just walk right in, so what's gotta be done, that's gotta be done immediately.
Just the roof on the garage.
But what happens if you don't do that?
The water will keep coming in the garage and the garage is gonna get
I never heard about water coming in the garage, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that's why the roof, the membrane's off the deck. So, the deck is exposed to the elements. So we've got to fix that. That's something that the housing authority should have fixed, but they're not, because they're selling it.
and I have one other question to Dr. Topol. Would it be better off, rather than having a vendor, having our own employees, Winnebago County? I know it's hard to get, I know you're gonna say that right away, but taking them Winnebago County employees?
I think there will come a day where we will need to do that. honest, I'm just giving you my honest assessment. I think there will come a day where we need to do that. We actually are fairly happy with our current vendor and, they're keeping the cost down. And it's probably right now, financially a little more beneficial to the county, honestly, to have the vendors rather than the staff. But there may come a day where I can't find a vendor, just like it happened with LSS. And that day will come and I will say, we need to convert our contracted employees. And I'll come to a county board meeting, probably out of sequence from a annual budget and say, you know, we need to hire this complement of staff to replace the vendors that we've lost. But we can do that relatively quickly. So yes, I mean, but right now, and that do you think that would be better, to have county staff or?
No, I think the vendor is good. They know what they're doing. They have the license. They've been doing it for many years. As long as they are willing to continue to do it, we are happy to have them to do it.
And we, at the Human Service Department, even though you hear a lot about our staff, we have probably 100 different vendor contracts with 100 different vendors for 100 different reasons. You just don't hear about them because there's not a really good reason. So when you hear me talking, you always hear me talking about, we need to do this with county staff. And I'm generally a very pro county staff administrator. I really believe that county staff we can control the quantity and the quality of the work much better when they're our own employees than when they're employees of somebody else. But when we have a good contractor, we don't generally say, you know, well, just because we like county employees, we'll just bring them in on their house. We should have a reason, a good reason. So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but that's, if you want them to be county employees and that's the will of the county board, we'll roll with that.
Every way is cheap, the best.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah, Mike, you had something?
Yes, so, did you already get a quote on the drawings or?
No,
No. You can't do anything, but you're estimating on your own estimate.
Yeah.
It's $100,000, doesn't sound like enough to me, but
it's a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
You know,
And realizing too that, you know, the biggest change was I'm just using a picture of the remodel kitchen. That was the biggest sore spot that we had going round and round with the housing authority. All new cabinets, they got the work done, I think it was last year. They finished it. Everybody's really happy with that. They replaced all the windows within the last, minimum energy efficient windows within the last 10 years. I think the roof was replaced within the last 10 years. Siding was looked at. So, I mean, a lot of the things you're worrying about, like what's going to go wrong and what's the next thing that's going to happen. And I'm like, the housing authority was, you know, it took us a while to get it done, but they did have a maintenance schedule and they did make improvements over the course of these last, 10, 15 years.
If they made all that investment last year and in recent years, how come they're selling that right away?
Well, I can only tell you what the director told me is that, her board was directing her to, they need to build something inside their own organization. And in order to do that, they needed liquid, assets, they needed cash. And, she presented this, and the reason being this was considered was because they don't have any properties in Neenah other than this.
Okay.
And so it kind of represented for them a little more of a challenge to keep that up because it was in a different city. And on all of the housing authority properties, not all of them, they got a few outside of Oshkosh, but most of them are in Oshkosh. So she said, we really like to get this one off our plates because we can't maintain it very well because it's, for us, it's a drive to get our staff up there to fix this, that, and the other thing. And maybe when they needed something, they have to figure out different vendors. And, in Oshkosh, it's convenient for them because they work with the same vendor groups. So they were saying that's the reason, it's that we feel like this is a money pit. It's that basically we need some liquid assets. And then I said to her, well, how much you're looking for? And then, she gave me the number and I'm like, even at that, this was several months ago. And I'm like, really? And then I'm like, Mike, find out what's up with that. And so Mike and his crew went through it and I said, I don't know what you're going to find. Is there going to be a cracked basement or a major
No,
structural issue, and he came back and said, no, in fact, he liked it a little bit better than the shelter care facility. I'm like, okay, cool.
And you said it is zoned properly.
Yep, zoned properly.
What is the zone? Do you know what it is?
And we don't know what it is, but it's,
Is it residential? I mean, it's right there. It's
All
got-
that space is residential, and I'm guessing because it's licensed for a group home, but I don't know.
we know this license, we know that the city has approved it, there's never been a problem.
Is there any kind of, so is it a existing use? How would the group home be an existing use, or is it a conditional, or, is it conditional use, do you think, or
Based on what I'm hearing, I would think it's an existing,
really?
because you're continuing it.
Yes, I mean, we're not
Been there
changing
25 years? 25?
25 plus, yeah.
Mary Ann, if you have something you want to-
Well, just sort of an aside, when you folks were asking about, the population and and you were addressing it to Bill and to Annette, I just wanted to note, as Bill said, he's been here for 16 years. Annette has been working with this population for a long time. She was an actual frontline worker before she went up the chain, so she has a real good finger on the pulse regarding the situation along with Bill.
Couple of things, Dr. Topol, statutorily, how many group homes do we have to have in Winnebago County? Is it per population, or what does the
We-
statute say?
It's the same thing as the shelter care, which is we either have to have a shelter care in the county, or we have to be able to send kids to another licensed one anywhere around the state. So the short answer to your question is we don't have to have a group home in Winnebago County.
But if,
We would prefer that it would either be ours or another entity that had a group home in Winnebago County, because it only helps us.
if we had a child in Winnebago County that needed services and we didn't have one, we'd have to pay to send them to Outagamie.
Absolutely.
They're okay,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. Brown,
Yep,
lacrosse,
I guess looking at our county population, is it normal for a, county the size of Winnebago County to have two group homes like this, do you know, or do you anticipate, what I'm getting at is, do you anticipate, Washera, Calumet, Outagamie, utilizing these facilities, and if they do utilize the facilities, then they have to pay the county, is that correct?
yeah, I mean, we would have a contract with them. I don't know that any counties ever asked us.
Yeah, they have.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
we have on occasion allowed them to use a space. if
Okay.
we
I mean,
have a space.
Yeah, it's all need, or
Beneficial to what?
correct, it's all, I just don't, if you have a kid.
so the trend, to answer your question, the trend in group homes for all counties is going down, because all the counties are starting to embrace this wrap around the family and the home.
Okay.
And try to keep the family together, unless there's active physical violence or
Mhm.
sexual abuse or whatever.
Mhm.
Try to wrap the service around the family and keep them home.
Mhm.
Whereas 20 years ago, the idea was, well, the family's struggling, we need to take the kid out for a period of time, do a bunch of things, and then bring the kid back into the home. The problem with that was that it didn't change anything. And the services pretty much were for the child and not for the family.
Mhm.
And so the new philosophy of the last, 10, 15 years is we're gonna wrap the service around the family and help all the family members learn how to do things differently, not just the child. And so the trend is going less group home, less shelter care, less placement. And I think, number one, that's good for our county because we don't have to send kids away. There's lots of added expense in doing that. And two, the money also goes there. Whereas if we do the group home here in our own county, chances are the people that work in our county group home live in Winnebago County or close by and are spending money here, and the money stays here and circulates here. So I think economically, it's better to have some of the service array in the county.
And another follow-up. As far as bringing it up to code, Mike, we're
Should
good.
be up to code now. My only concern is the garage roof.
And that's just patch and repair.
We're gonna probably pull off the membrane, repair the decking, and then put a new membrane on.
Any other discussion?
Is it a shed roof or what?
What?
Can you build it up or you should? Did you do that?
That just would probably be more costly.
Tom?
I'll make a motion to go ahead for the purchase of Silvercrest Shelter Care for the amount of $240,000 with an additional $100,000 to renovate what needs to be the site.
I'll second that.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of the Silvercrest Shelter Care. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
5-0. All right, moving on to discussion and approval of a facilities naming policy.
I sent you guys the draft copy that I had from 2003. Marianne and I got together and we talked about it, and I made the changes that you see in red. In the meantime, I've polled some of the other counties to see if they had some naming policies, and I have not heard back from them. I've polled them on a couple different things, and I've not heard back from them. So hopefully, we will hear something from somebody else just to see how they might handle it. But I know Marianne and I, we talked a little bit about what the process would be to actually put this into effect for the county, whether it's a resolution or something, if it, you know, how we actually do that. And I don't think we've got that worked out yet.
We had talked about, well, should this be in the code? And I'm saying, well, this is a naming policy. I don't think this would be appropriate for a code, the federal code, because we're talking about the whole thing, the recodification. So then it would make me say we should probably go via resolution for the naming policy. But again,
But what ends up happening is, 30 years ago, we passed a resolution that all of the solid waste that the county departments have on construction projects and everything else goes to our solid waste landfill. That resolution gets lost, you know, so as we lose corporate history with people who have been here for a while, we get new people in here, all of a sudden they're not aware of a resolution. And then you got to go back and find out that it was passed in 1997 or 1972 or whatever, and then try and bring it forward to people. And, you know, Marianne's been here a while, I've been here, well, you know, other than a couple of people, I've been here the longest, that, John Raby probably knows about it because Pat O'Brien was the one that got it going. But, you know, that's just one resolution. I don't know if there's any other resolutions that affect anything. So if we create a naming policy, pass it as a resolution, we know about it now. As generations of staff and county board people go away, it's going to be buried in our resolutions. And so we've been talking about, you know, how do we have policies that the county board has developed? How do we institutionalize that so that somebody can go there and say, here's a policy, look at it.
and we thought, I'm saying, well, why don't we have a policy handbook? Literally house it in the county clerk's office. And I mean, obviously, we're going to have to go back, but from now on, we'll say, okay, this is the policy handbook, this is the keeper of the records, and we could put it there.
So you're suggesting not passing an ordinance or
Well, we're suggesting not passing an ordinance, because then if you guys want to
or a
change,
resolution?
No, we didn't say that.
no, we didn't say it's the resolution. What we're saying is with an ordinance, it becomes much more difficult if you want to revise it or update it. Then you have to go through the whole ordinance revision process. And it's really just a policy. It's not something that the sheriff or somebody else can go out and actually enforce. So we're working towards how we would set up a policy book, but it would probably be initiated by a resolution from you guys. And it may just be that we have a binder and we have a table of contents that says naming policy, takes you to a tab, and it's a resolution that says this is what the naming policy is. We haven't gotten to that point.
Is it hard to find the resolutions now that go way back? You have a tracking system where you can get to it?
If you basically, we don't have, Yeah, you have to read. I mean, you go through the various.
Yeah.
To go through everything to get to it?
Yeah, basically, I've talked, when Stuart was here, I talked to her numerous times trying to find old resolutions.
Yeah.
And the first question is, do you kind of have a time frame on when it was? Because then she goes back to those minutes and start, or the agendas, and started looking at all the agendas to see where it was. And then once she finds out what the resolution is, then she can go and find the resolution somewhere and we can find it, but it's usually about a week that it would take for her to get me the information.
So this policy thing now, since we're computerized,
Mhm.
I mean, we should be able to keep track of that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, this
Absolutely.
is, I think it's the best way to go. So how are we gonna present this to the board?
I would say via resolution.
Yeah.
We have again, Mike showed me, I made some suggestions. And then,
This is
okay, I could
a change.
make some suggestions. And then you as a committee can look at this.
Mhm.
And then, again, and it's not just the facility, I mean, it is for the
It would be,
entire
yeah.
Winnebago County. So that's why obviously you have to present it to the board, so everybody has a say in how this should play out. So, yeah.
Do you have a database where you can get to, Stephen, where you can get to the resolutions easily, or could you put one together where you could do a search easy by computer more easily? Find old stuff like that?
I often call the county clerk, okay?
Yeah.
When I'm looking for resolutions, as Mike said, I will literally go into, our Winnebago County website, and I'll see, they have a column on the left that says agendas, and then I just click, and then I start reading and looking. I don't-
You have-
Although,
Well, somebody has to.
the county clerk's office is wonderful, they can also help. But it can be time consuming, but again, you're right, with computers, we should be able to have search words and
Yeah.
then just hone in.
Yeah.
I have not been able to use the search function on the web page to find a resolution. And it may just be, I'm just not tech savvy enough to know how to do it. But it's, as Marianne says, it's like, okay, I think it was in 1998. So
Control F. You know that trick? I'll show you
Yeah.
after the meeting. Oh, you do?
well, there's also sometimes like the search bar up there, but a lot of times I'll search on what I think is a keyword,
Mhm.
and it'll come back nothing found.
Mhm.
So it depends on how somebody worded something. If I'm thinking of the same word or not, it would be, because like if you put naming in there, you know, all of a sudden now I've got 30 different resolutions with naming.
Aren't they all numbered? The
Yeah,
numbers.
oh, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, but in order to find the number, you gotta go through the index
Yeah.
and find the number. I mean, because like if I know, like this, if I want to say, I gotta find the naming policy, you guys pass it as a resolution, it gets a resolution number, but 10 years from now, I would not know what the resolution number is until I look at the agenda, and then I can find it that way. And that's the problem that we've got, and that's where it's like, you know, Mary and I were discussing, do we just create a binder and we put the resolutions in there and a table of index or an index that says naming policy, you know, the different policies, or, you know, whatever policies like Parks has or the Expo Center or thing like that, and have them so that you can find them easier than, well, they're in the catalog of all the resolutions and you need the resolution number to figure it out, and then you can download it.
And you won't remember the resolution.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, was it in March of 2022 or was it in?
Supervisor Wise, you had something?
Yes, I always get into problems with the legal. That's why I'm glad you were attending here. I like the idea of the handbook, the separate handbook on policies, but could we do two things? One being this document be a resolution, and then do an ordinance at the same time to put that in the code saying naming policy, see resolution number, da, 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 da.
Again, I don't, and that's something that we all have to look at, but I don't think a policy would be appropriately put in the general code. That's why I'm thinking the way to do it is via resolution. You know, ordinances are the law, okay, and so I'm thinking that resolution would be the proper vehicle to get this in front of the county board.
I'll defer to you.
So in other words, a resolution can be amended. Whereas an ordinance would take you forever to do
Well,
that.
you can amend an ordinance, but it's more detailed.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, though, I mean. So that's why you would definitely wanna go with that, I agree. With the resolution.
Could you still put this on computer though and make it just ordinances? Why would it have to be in a separate book?
It could be, I just don't think
Or
creating policy, any kind of policy is appropriate in an ordinance.
Well,
So that's,
I think what you're saying, yeah, because we could do something just like what we have with the county code,
right,
we could do it with the, yeah, we
Right.
just,
Oh, you're saying a companion to
right,
the general code?
right,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
with a policy,
right, that's what I meant. I said ordinance.
that's fine, yeah.
I guess, I
That was what I had in there.
yeah, I was.
I'm sorry.
One of the first initial comments is, hey, this, people hadn't been around, they're not gonna remember. Whether it's an ordinance or resolution, to me, that doesn't, people are gonna come and go, that's not gonna, matter. It's gonna really matters, how we do this and people know about it. I mean, I would hope, in the next coming years, everything that we do should be, all the records, right, entered in the computer. And then, when all of us are gone in 50 years or whatever, then this is still around. If they want to change it, they can
Yeah.
change it then. Well, whatever the flavor of the day is then, but I think this is what, to me, this is what this committee has come up with, that, we want to come up with the proper policy and procedure, ordinance, whatever that be, and move forward with it. Yeah.
There's something I just thought of, Tom, is there anybody who's doing this right now, then in the process of hearing and naming that this is going to affect?
Well, we've got, the previous clerk, I think that name's already out there.
Okay, so this would be after that.
Well, we haven't given her that yet either, so that's kind of what we've been waiting for, is to make sure that we had something. But,
Get that done, get it in
Your
paper.
grandfather, that one in.
Well,
that's what we've been holding off on, that's why we haven't been doing it, so.
Is the word demise an appropriate thing?
I think we took
Do we
that
have to
out.
wait
We
to?
took that
Yep,
out.
it's out.
Oh, it is out, okay. I'm sorry.
Because-
It's out of there.
Okay.
I'm just gonna caution, from what I've seen in the news, and having been a former military person, they're renaming bases because people have.
Yep.
Things that went on 100 years ago is no longer considered appropriate. It's just, I don't know that you want to jump on naming it for people who are still alive, who can still screw things up for you.
That's a
Well,
concern I have.
but either that, I mean, that doesn't
Yeah.
bear anything, because if some of these people are dead and something that.
I know.
That doesn't matter.
Well,
That doesn't matter at all. Yeah, absolutely. The flavor of the day changes, and whether they're alive or dead, I don't think they're
That's true.
right.
Right, I mean, so what you're saying is you only can be named after you retire?
He said, yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, oh, now you're saying
Yeah.
dad.
Demise.
That's really crucial.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's not what, it doesn't say that in here though.
No,
Right?
No,
Yeah.
Before it,
Before it to the demise.
but I mean,
I
now
don't
it doesn't say that, so they could still be alive now, right?
yeah,
I,
Okay,
So you took demise out, how did you rewrite that? That individuals should not be considered, you took the whole sentence out?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
They would all be mine before, Jimmy Coughlin, he was live, they even got a picture of
That's
it.
before my time.
Yeah.
So, but mine would have been in there. That's-
I just, my personal opinion is, I think, it would be a good thing if somebody retired or is still alive, that their family's there. I think that's a great
Well,
achievement and an
I-
honor and a big, and it's a big thing that they should I don't see a problem with somebody being alive and anything being named after him. I think that, to me, it's a great honor,
So
so,
see that on Friday.
yes,
Flying in from all over for that. Whole family plans to be here.
yes, I think that's,
What time does that start?
11 o'clock. Lunch after.
Right.
so, does anybody have any issues with this, how we changed it, and,
So I don't have, so you took out the last sentence in, A subsection 2, individuals should not be considered for facility names
Oh.
until after.
Yeah, that should be out.
Yeah, this one.
That last sentence should be gone.
Yeah.
Which one?
A sub 2,
Yeah.
last sentence.
Change that.
individuals should not be considered for facilities named until after their demise.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah,
whole,
yeah.
that could be taken out.
One of the committee members,
Right.
one of the
Yeah.
board members has raised an issue with typos and everything. He's very strictly, it should be, the way they are, no changes,
I thought I had read.
you know what I mean? Maybe you've dealt with that. Where
Yeah.
Number D, after it goes through committee of jurisdiction, then comes to facilities. You think the official name has to be approved by the whole board? We can go on and on and on, whether to put the middle initial or not to put the middle initial, or
I think since this is going to be touching the entire county, it should go in front of the entire board.
it should go in front of the entire board,
Yeah.
but they have the final name on it. I mean,
And decide-
David Albrecht, I know that he had come up with what, 5 different names that it could have been named on the building there that we had to pick out. I could just see the board right now, I haven't go through all these names and if they wanted to see in there, we didn't want to see the or not the or all that. I'm just bringing up,
What are you
or do
proposing,
we
Tom?
just give just the list of names and A, B, or C? Yeah. Have that.
They can
That
still
would-
make a motion to amend on the floor,
Mhm.
Right.
right?
That's,
Yeah.
That's just the thought, I just,
So what do you suggest, Tom?
well, like she said, it could still be, we could
Mhm.
just bring in a list of names. Pick out A, B, C, or whatever you want, And like she said, they can still make a motion to amend it.
I think what Tom was getting at is maybe it says the list of names on D and decide the final naming of the selection, but it, like Mary Ann said,
So why don't you just say, the Winnebago County Board shall review the list of names and make a decision or something?
Anything like that.
Or
Take the list of names. The list of names that have been given them and make a decision, I don't know, but I just think if you go ahead with that, I can just see, go on and on and on and
But
on.
isn't that essentially what's gonna happen?
I think,
yes.
Do you know what?
I think I don't think it, sorry, Tom, Mike, I kind of agree with Mary Ann here. You can put this in here and the final decision is gonna go to the county board I make amendment to put his middle initial in there.
Yeah.
I don't think it would, but okay.
I don't know, either way you put it, it sounds like we're still gonna have that same problem.
So, but this way here, to me, it just sounds like we're gonna give the list of names and they're gonna have to sit and debate on which one they like.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
you're gonna, you got
So
36
what-
you got 36 different.
There's a-
Yeah,
and they-
So how can we, correct that problem and?
The facilities department should have the name and pass it along to the county board.
For approval.
For
and
approval.
From there, and they can still make the,
So the Winnebago County Board shall review a list of names.
What
Or
about,
what if you just say that the committee of jurisdiction is responsible for coming up with the name?
yeah, with the name, yes.
Okay.
That,
Mhm.
agree.
Yep,
and that would go under D?
Well, there's B.
Oh,
that's all right, another one.
If you look up here, right here, I've got the originating committee of jurisdiction shall forward the list, shall forward the name to be considered to you guys. And then we'll review the name and forward with comments to actually, I could take the department out of here.
Yeah, look, I'm just gonna make one comment on that. Now, this right sizing of these committees is, that's where I was going. What if this committee disappears? So I guess we should kind of consider that and put I don't know if we put in the Facilities and Property Management Committee or the Committee of Jurisdiction in there. Just something to think about.
That's good for it, but.
Well, I guess, this is a policy that could be changed relatively quickly. Right now you are the Committee of Jurisdiction for naming a building.
Mhm.
If it becomes a Public Works Committee, or if it becomes an Administrative Committee, or whatever it is, the new committee would then take a look at the policies that they would be in charge of, and it would be a review process, just like what we did with the codes. Only it's not an ordinance that we have to do. It's just a policy, and it's like I just did, it's pen and ink, and you change the name.
If you take out that mechanism, doesn't it have to come back to us before?
Well, I've got in B. I don't know why the B is crossed off. It says the originating committee of jurisdiction shall forward the name to be considered to the Facilities and Property Committee. I'm gonna change that to committee.
You gotta make that change in D then too.
Yeah,
That
let's
the
hit
county
the
board shall review the name and decide the final selection. Or what,
While you're on me, before we go off from that, does that mean a committee is the only one that can make a recommendation? Because now these both have not come from a committee, they come from a person.
That's up to you guys. That's something that the county board needs to decide.
The person has to come before the committee with the name, with the idea,
Well, now he did last time, to come before the county board.
but he came to the committee after that though. Right?
I think he might have.
He did, he came
Yeah.
in.
Right. But here it says the committee has to come up with the name.
But that would be taken care of at the county board rules at the start of right? How we decide the county board rules.
It says the originating committee of jurisdiction shall forward the list of names to be considered to Bill's Facility and Property Management Department with review.
And then the department forwards it to the committee.
Well, I took out the department,
Right,
and it just comes to you guys.
right, but I'm saying now this originating committee, does it have to be a committee that brings the name forward, or can it be an individual? That's what I'm asking now.
That's up to you guys. The reason I put that in there is I'm thinking that the committees have jurisdiction over their departments and things like that. My thoughts were sometimes individuals will usurp the committee structure that you guys have.
Mhm.
And if somebody would bring it to the county board on their own, you all could just refer it back to the committee of
Mhm.
jurisdiction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I like going to the committee level
I do
first.
too,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying that's what it says, and I can just see where something might say, because both of them so far that been nominated. And that come from committee.
mhm.
So you have under C, the Facilities and Property Management Committee shall review the list of names to be considered and shall forward the list of names and comments to the Winnebago County Board for consideration.
No, but on B, it says originating committee of jurisdiction shall forward the list of names to be considered to Facility and Property Management Department. Does that mean only a committee can do it? That's my question. Supervisor Eisen brought in both names so far, and that's been just lately, so.
Well, I guess, again, like I said, you guys have to decide, do you want to open that up? Do you want to extend it past committee of jurisdiction? Because right now, under your rules, a committee can bring a resolution or an ordinance to the board, but so can an individual ordinance.
Mhm.
And that's right in the rules.
You and I don't agree with, but.
So you gotta change the rule first before you change this.
Well, there's something,
I don't know that you need to change the rule. If you guys deem something is important enough, you can say, we are going to refer this to the committee for review.
Mhm.
You know, somebody can bring something forward. What's gonna end up happening is there may be a circumstance where the committee says no, and the individual feels strongly about it and wants the county board to vote on it.
Mhm.
You know, I guess, you know, we would have to work on an idea where if the committee turns it down, it still comes to the county board for review. But the vote would be, you know, 0 to 5 against it at the committee level.
Yeah.
You know,
Never seen
it-
one
it-
of those.
with some of these policies and things that you wanna do, it opens up a Pandora's box.
Mhm.
I think it would work a lot better that way, actually, if you think about it, because an individual can still say something.
Okay, we should be back.
Okay.
And
We're
we're
recording.
let's see if I can
Let's get,
remember.
let's, okay.
Oh, I forgot his question.
The
Supervisor.
reason it would come back to this committee for two things. One thing being, there might be a lot of literature out there that has, it's now okay, we want to make it the Bill Davis building. And they might have a bunch of them from Fred Flintstone or something, building a lot of paperwork that has to be changed. Calling cards have to be changed because the address is on there, everything else. For the financial aspects of it, primarily is what I'm talking about. And if there's a plaque on the door, nice brass plaque on the door that has to go to the scrap, and we have to do a new one. We're gonna do a PVC one or another plaque on it. So there's two things that I think there's a rationale for it to be coming back to us, or to this facilities committee. I think that's important to continue that. Thanks.
Mhm. Did you wanna pull that your document back up there? And so if we're gonna vote on this, we gotta know exactly what we're voting on.
Did we change D to reflect change in, D, D name?
Yes,
So it's not listed names, it's the name, right?
yeah.
Listed to be,
If you all want, I can print off a hard copy of this so that you can see it right in front of you.
take out on C, names, take out the S. Right there, review the list of names, it's the name, show,
Take the S out.
no, not that.
Yeah, Cause it's only gonna be one name.
Yeah. And then go up one line,
Well,
Go up one line.
Yeah, right there,
Right there.
there's names there too.
I got the S crossed off and the list
Oh, yeah,
is crossed off.
Oh, okay. So forward the name and comments to the Winnebago County Board for consideration. Okay. Oh, now wait, go up again, sorry.
List the names,
The names, go on
Name.
A1. So review the names,
should be named.
name,
Where?
go to A,
C,
A? Oh,
A1, right?
yes,
well, I'm thinking that would be
the names and
the
forward the
department
names.
to the committee of jurisdiction. They'd have the different names that they want to talk to committee of
Okay.
jurisdiction.
Okay,
4 or 5
okay.
but in C, you got a list of name and first sentence. There's
Oh,
He's
it's
got-
crossed.
he's
We could
crossed
mark
out.
that.
Rather struck off.
Yep,
Cross off.
it's crossed out.
Okay, so initially they may come up with a bunch of names, but then they
Yep,
narrow it down.
At the committee, at the jurisdiction, at the original committee, they narrowed down to a name. That name comes to you guys. You guys review it, you make your comments, it goes to the county board.
Right, there you go,
yep.
I agree.
All right, can we go to D just to make sure we have everything right too? Winnebago County shall review the name and decide any changes to the facility's name once adopted must follow the same process. Excuse me.
I'm gonna print off a number of these copies for you guys.
It's a lot of what we listed too, it's tough.
Well, it might look very, there are all of these ramifications. You gotta think about, what about this?
That's a great one, Jim.
There was.
great example. You go through all this and then, you know,
Yeah, I have 4 names. I'm William James Wise. Or if you look at the license, my license driving license is William J. Wise Jr. And some places I'm just Jim Wise. I'm elected as Jim Wise.
uh-huh.
So if you wanna make the Jim Wise courthouse, remember, there's like 4 names, you might want to put them down.
Okay. What would you like? You don't have to be dead.
Oh, that's right.
You don't have to be dead.
I don't use my first name, so
Oh, you don't? What's your first name?
Edward.
Oh,
My
Well,
father-in-law, that's not his
I was,
first name
I've
either.
never
Yeah,
been
it must be-
called that all my life, even by my parents.
Yeah,
Really?
his first name is William and then
So I-
Mary. Yeah, like
The only thing I could figure out is that they could have called me Michael Edward, which would have been
Yeah.
fine. It still would have got his name. No,
I apologize, it was supposed to print in color. But it didn't. And it's supposed to be two-sided. But I think this has all the changes.
Can we get a copy of that? So have we sold naming rights?
That's what we do.
We do? What is it called? Oh, the Sunny. Well, what's Sunny?
Sunnyville.
Yeah,
No, but we've got streets, the street names, we've got, there's a hall that's called, is it Steinhilber Hall? Or something, or Stevenson Hall?
Stevenson on, but I don't know. I think that was just called.
Um,
we moved in.
But they've,
So you mean a family might come to the county and say, I want to,
or like, just like they talked about with, different parks and stuff like that, like, let's say you,
Kenny Roble.
well,
Well,
not,
that's
no, no, not that, or
That
like you
could-
say, like, you could have like Pepsi State Park or Quick Trip
Yeah.
State Park.
Parks at one time was looking at selling naming rights to like the ice cream shack at the fairgrounds or,
Yeah. Festival Foods Pavilion.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like getting into naming a baseball field for Christ's sakes.
Well, that's
Like
that's what
E.J.
they do.
Snyder.
Yeah.
You know,
So I didn't want to infringe on their, plans to sell naming rights to
Yeah.
make revenue.
No,
So can I ask under A, when you have the department involved in the naming of a Winnebago County facility, shall start the naming process with the department's committee of jurisdiction. So are you saying, let's say there is a supervisor, they might go to Judiciary and Public Safety or Highway and say, okay, Highway Committee, I'm here. So-and-so has made a vital contribution to our county. I would like this committee to put forward a resolution or something.
I'm thinking like, if you wanted to name the Oshkosh Human Services Building, and it's called the Oshkosh Human Services Building because that's the function of it, and it's located in Oshkosh. But if you wanted to name it the Bill Copel Human Services Building, you would start with the Human Services
Yeah,
that
Department
makes sense.
before, you know,
we did,
so that they could say, no, we don't
Yeah.
want to name our building after Bill Copel. Or, you know, if name this facility after me.
Right.
It would be, you know, facilities would have, the department and the committee of jurisdiction should be able to, I think, say, yeah, we want to name the buildings.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
The committee shall review the names and for the name or names it wants to be considered for the facility, and then in one, it says the names.
Yeah, because
Should it be the name or names, or?
yeah, because
we're still on the,
we're still on the
We're not
names.
honing it yet.
We're not honing it yet.
We're-
Then how you get from names to name?
Because the
Oh.
committee of origination has to decide on a name.
Okay.
The name.
And that name then comes to this committee.
Yep.
You guys would say, yeah, that sounds good. It would go to the county board. and it should just, pass through easily.
Or at that time, you talk to David Albrecht and he says, no, I'd like it to the David A. Albrecht building or something like that. You have some more time to go through it.
Just the typing issue here, in sub one, A sub one, should there be a period after county facility? Or should it be a ampersand? Or like a half?
Have a period.
Okay.
What was it again? What if
Period.
there's a
Period
right here? Oh,
Or it could be a. Could
You
be a
trying
half.
to get ahead of
ampersand.
Mr. Eisen. I see your game here.
no kidding, he would find that mistake, wouldn't he? He's sometimes.
A great person to have on your side.
Oh, my God.
So we have to change. Yeah.
So this would be a resolution coming to us and somebody's going to write this. Who would that?
You're probably looking at them.
One of the two, yeah.
They probably, I'll probably draft a rough draft and send it to Mary Ann.
It never come to us first?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
So it doesn't go to the board?
No.
Yeah, so the final draft
Yes.
will go to us.
Yep. Next month, she'll have a resolution drawn up, whereas, and
We'll just pluck a lot
Yep.
out, basically.
Yep.
Is there anybody else?
So-
Is there anybody else, any other? Would have to be on.
no, I don't think so. Well, it says approval of this.
It's a resolution, judiciary.
No, no.
I don't know. Good thinking.
It's good to have Mary Ann here today.
Do we need a motion to approve what we have written here?
I will make a motion to approve, the new naming guidelines for Winnebago County.
Perfect. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to discussion of responsible bidders / contractors and county role. I guess I'll start. I asked Mary Ann to be here. I forward onto her the ordinances or that I had given out last month to have her review those and go through them to look to see if they're all passed. I'm assuming that they're legal, so, but just her thoughts on any of this and any discussion that we might have.
So yes, I reviewed what, Chairman Buck had sent me. There was, an ordinance from Brown County. There was also an ordinance from Douglas County up in Superior that I believe Supervisor Buck forwarded both of them. And basically the language they track, and now mind you, this is in the ordinance, so it would be an ordinance, so therefore it would be reflected in the general code. And actually, Mike Elder and I, during the first round of, and Chairman Egan, during the first round of recodification, was addressing these very sections. But quite frankly, I liked what Brown County had done. I thought it actually addressed some concerns that I had with the Douglas County one. But then again, we have to look at, and I'm going to try to the actual codification that we were talking about. And I don't know if all of you know, but again, we are, our vendor had indicated they were about 3 months behind, so we should have been getting the draft like mid-April, and now they're saying it could be sometime in July, the end of July. So that throws everything off. But right now, we have 3.07, which is in our code, which talks about competitive purchasing, documentation requirements, and exemptions. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse because we are smack in the middle of this recodification. But I have no problem, quite frankly, with the way Brown County has its ordinance. So maybe during the next round of discussions regarding this recodification, I have no problem bringing it forward and saying, you know, facilities have looked at this, I've looked at this. And this might be something that should be considered to either replace what we have existing right now in the code or supplement it. This is Brown County's, code on this is much more extensive. It's basically taking everything out of state statute and putting it in its code. And it's probably a really good idea that we do that as well. So just to, and I know you guys all probably know this, but just remember, under 5952, okay, all public work, including any contract for the construction, repair, remodeling, or improvement of any public work, building or furnishing supplies or material of any kind, where the estimated cost of such work will exceed $25,000 shall be let by contract to the lowest responsible bidder. And we had a big discussion a few months ago about what is a responsible bidder and what happens if we have problems with people who we deemed were not responsible and they're coming back again and bidding. But I think we've clarified that, you know, as long as we have a paper trail documenting the concerns, that the county is on solid legal ground if they are receiving bids from subsequent projects from bidders who have not satisfied what we needed, and we have a paper trail, we can consider that not to be a responsible bidder. But I know we've talked about that before. But that's what it comes down to. So essentially, the statutes are codified, or should be codified in our recodification. But yeah, I prefer the Brown County versus the
Douglas.
Douglas County. Yeah.
So I just don't, you're saying we can wait a couple months till this round of recodification? And I guess I'm just a little unclear about, you know, what that would entail.
So with the recodification, obviously, it's not just involving competitive purchasing, it's involving everything involving the county, you know, from police, you name it. What happens is, once the recodification, the final draft is done, it gets presented to the county board. So the county board can see all of this, okay? So it's not as if it's not gonna go to the county board. What I'm just saying is, since we are in the middle of this right now, but we didn't have that, we've actually asked them to start working on what we did during the first round. During the second round, we can say, okay, we really need to maybe scrap this and put in what another county did.
Sure.
Because I am a great defender of, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If it's done right, let's just put it in.
Thank you.
You know?
Yes, thank you.
So what I'm saying is, again, they told us July, but initially they told us April. So I would suggest, and again, you can certainly give us direction, but during the next meetings, when we get to chapter 3, we can say we were at facilities committee and the committee reviewed the samples that Chairman Buck provided. And their thought is that it should be included in this new recodification. Have all of you received copies that were reviewed?
Brown and Douglas?
Yeah.
Did we get that?
Last month.
Yeah. I'll look at it again.
Okay.
Yeah. I can send it to you too. I have it electronically, but I'll do that.
You can carry this over, because I don't think we're gonna have any kind of meetings. I mean, we're until maybe August, if they even get it. I don't, so it's not, I mean, yes, we need to get it taken care of. I like what you presented, but yeah, I just think we would be working at cross purposes right now, given the huge project we have in my office with the recodification.
Will that be going into, if that's what we do, will that be going into all of, not just facilities, it'll be going into highways and everything?
Oh, yeah.
The county units, that was part of what we talked about. It would be foolish of us to do something that would just affect the whatever's under the facilities jurisdiction.
And part of the thing is, the county executive has smaller groups of departments working together. He's got a group that's public works, we will be discussing this, over the next few months, and especially if it becomes part of the code, so that everybody understands how it's being changed. I know Bob Daigle and Bob Daigle and I have talked about it, and there is somebody that he knows from the state or from, that was actually with Allegheny County, that had a process for doing this also. So, he's reaching out to her so that we can get a copy of what they've got, so that we can see how it applies to what we want to do.
Cause I know at the last highway meeting that it was put on record, not by the whole committee, but by a committee member, and the chairman asked if he wanted on to have it, and he said, yes, he wanted to be on the minutes, saying that he did not want this one company anymore for all the headaches they've given us.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, as long as there's a basic, I mean, that was just one.
There is on that.
You have to have I know we have the paper trail, but we have to follow through on that and make sure, like the presentation that passed around where it had the state statutes, and they said this, if there was a township had a problem with this contractor, they cost the township $500,000, and then this one didn't have to use them, but they documented that, and they said, no, you don't have to use them because we have it documented, so. As long as we do that, so. So I guess Mary Ann, you're suggesting that we, wait a couple months and see, once this goes into codification,
We're gonna have meetings again, with the second round. And with the first round, we had the county executive, we had the county board chair. And I think with the second round, we're going to have at least a couple of the members of various committees of jurisdiction where it might touch. Clearly, this is gonna touch your committee. So you would be invited to these meetings so we could talk about.
there was a lot of kind of documents to review on this, and, like I said, I'll resend you what we had. I guess, did anybody have any questions on what any of these municipalities, I think I remember it was Brown County, City of Green Bay, and maybe it was Douglas County, but, was that what it was? City, but so there's a number of these, about two throughout the state, either cities or municipal or counties that have these. Any questions or concerns on any of that? No? So we'll wait for recodification.
Which should be happening in the next couple of months, but that, I mean, we started it, but now we're in the second, hopefully we'll get to the second round in the next couple of weeks.
So what you're saying is one of these ordinances, then you could say, well, I guess we need to talk about that, or we can talk about it next month too, and say, hey, we like the Brown County language that seemed to fit what Winnebago County had.
What I would suggest, and this might be a really good idea, is for your next meeting, make sure all the members have copies of the Douglas and the Brown County.
Okay.
And a copy of the Winnebago County General Code 3.07, which is what we have in existence right now. For not just facilities, but it's involving competitive purchasing.
Yep.
And you'll see that it's clearly not as comprehensive as some of what you presented. So look at that, and then you guys could have a discussion and perhaps note what you like.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on this? Moving on to the discussion on the Oshkosh Human Resources Building Elevator Controls Modernization.
Should be Human Services Building. Thank you. Changing this one. I'm gonna be beating a dead horse and saying the supply chain is just totally, everybody thinks the world's come back to normal after COVID and everything. The supply chain has not. It is still a problem. We have the majority of the materials ordered and being shipped to us for the elevator. The one key component is the controller, and that is due to be delivered sometime in July, but we don't have a ship date yet. So right now we are anticipating a start date when we're be able to do the work of August 15th. But that's all pending upon being able to get the materials. So, Capelli and Dietrich is the general contractor. They're gonna go in and do whatever they can do to expedite the project and get their stuff done. But we are waiting on the electronics to come here, and the electronics are made from a vast majority of different little pieces that we just experienced, during COVID. Vehicles weren't getting chips to put in the vehicles, and they were being built without chips and sitting in a field waiting for the chips to come in. The chips are starting to come back, but
The good news is they're building one of the world's largest chip facilities outside of Columbus, Ohio, as we speak.
so, hopefully, if anything that COVID and the geopolitical situation has taught us is that we can't offshore everything.
That's right.
And having everything offshore is what's really messing us up. If you take a look at our Neenah Human Services chiller building, 42 weeks because they're made outside the country. The elevator controls, the components are made outside the country. And I feel frustrated personally in that I keep telling you it's the supply chain. And, I talked to the elevator company. I said, what would it cost for us to expedite delivery of these things? And they said, you can't.
I don't know. I think it would be the jurisdiction of this committee. And I don't know how, and I'm curious to hear your remarks on this, Mike. And I feel responsible for a responsibility to the taxpayers to do our due diligence to buy stuff made in the United States of America. And I mean, do we have a county policy? Is that something that we have to talk about in recodifications? I find it foolish that if we're gonna be buying chairs, furniture, equipment, whatever that might be, that is there a website available to municipal governments or to say, hey, let's, utilize our taxpayer dollars that are gonna work for us here rather than buy stuff outside of this country?
We look for that, but some of the things that we end up happening is we're supposed to go to the lowest responsible bidder.
Yep.
And they may source foreign materials. If we use federal dollars, they do have a Buy American Act, that you could potentially enact as a county ordinance or something. But I will tell you, it's like air conditioners virtually aren't made in this country. There is more coming back, but the list of what you buy on a normal daily basis that is not made in the US is phenomenal. And a lot of times what you'll just see is it's assembled in the US, which means that they bought their parts from overseas, which, the controls that we're buying are an American controls, but they're made of foreign sourced components. So we can have the Buy American, we can do our best to buy things from inside this country. One of the things that we have found is we've created a monster with just-in-time inventory controls and cost cutting and everything. And what I'm finding is some manufacturers and vendors don't have stock on the shelves. So they do not build something until they have an order from somebody and a purchase order for a guaranteed sale. Once they do that, now you get in the queue with everybody else that has done it. So, I think that's what happened with the chiller for Neenah Human Services. They don't build the chiller until they have an order. We gave them the order. Now we're in line with the 10,000 other people that wanted the chiller, and that's when they build it. That's the way people are making their profits and controlling their costs. They don't have inventory anymore. And me, as an end user trying to get, we're stuck with the results of that. And what's happened is we've got an elevator that's down for over a year. you know, what I would like to say is when we build new buildings that are multiple floors, we don't have just one elevator. There will always be two elevators for redundancy. But that's gonna drive up cost. And I know I have your sympathies right now, but down the road, when we're all not here, they may go back to, we've got to get the lowest cost. So that's where we are with that elevator. We are in a holding pattern until we get the controller. And once we get the controller, we'll be able to mobilize and get the system up.
Right. Any other questions from Mike on that? Moving on to discussion of building assessment study.
In 2 weeks, they will be coming here for, I believe, their either second to last or last visit for all of our buildings. They've got some outlier buildings to look at in the parks buildings. And they've been working on their reports and coming up with, what their results of their visits are going to be. The plans are in late July, early August, to be meeting with me and the county executive to go over the report. Hopefully in the August committee meeting, we'll be able to share the results with you guys. And then in the September timeframe, be able to come before the county board with what the results are of their analysis of the buildings.
You let me know when that is, if,
Sure,
okay.
sure. You know, so far I'm not getting a lot of red flags from them. But they haven't really been sharing a whole lot of stuff with us yet. So, we'll see what they have to say. I think what might come out of this is that, it might be a good idea to have facilities under one umbrella, that the care of the buildings is kind of uniform for all of them, because I do know that there are some buildings that they have some concerns about that aren't really our building, you know, because they weren't assigned to us, and we haven't really had our fingers into them.
How many buildings do we have in the county?
138,
And then how many are you in,
25.
so who's in charge of the others?
Highways, airport, parks, solid waste. So, you know, we've been working our way into the other buildings as we've proven that we can help them, get things done. I know when Peter Mall was here, they didn't want us working on their buildings at all. And I told them, you know, why are you paying August winters hundreds of dollars to come and prepare your cooling tower for winter, when all you do is you open up the valve and let the water drain out and you hose out the sediment. You know, it's, you know, maybe 4 to 8 hours of work for one individual. Why are we contracting that out? That's something that we can do. You know, and highways has been very receptive to us working with them. So we're getting more stuff in there with them.
Yeah, I don't know how that doesn't make sense to people
So
financially.
So I think what you're going to see is our buildings are in pretty good shape. And the further away we get from taking care of buildings, the worse shape they're in.
Huh?
You said that they will be doing that Silvercrest shelter, Gary, you're gonna have.
Yeah,
that also?
I've got an email into them to do that.
Yeah. Fox City's campus.
That would be next year, because we have to split the cost between us and Allegheny County.
Yeah, for the facility study, but as far as who handles maintenance on the building, it's UW, right? It's always been that way. Is it in that way in the MOU right now, or what's gonna happen? Can you talk about it?
Well, I can talk about it. The way it works is UW is supposed to provide the physical plant staff and manage the day-to-day maintenance of the buildings. The counties contribute a certain dollar amount that they decide on jointly towards that maintenance. And that's what the memo of understanding was supposed to kind of outline. But what's happened in the recent past now is they can't hire people. And I kind of feel for them, but we've managed to fill a number of our vacancies, eventually. And, you know, their ideas of what to do with maintenance and everything, are a little different than what, Paul Farrell's and my ideas are. But it's in their area of responsibility under the MOU.
Okay, so, but we've appropriated some funds for them to do some of the
Right.
repairs. And
And I think between the two counties, it's like $130,000 a piece we contribute towards the
Right.
maintenance.
And, is there any way that those projects can be moved along faster by counties helping them, or are they on their own with that?
To be truthful, both county executives have made the comment that we'll just take over taking care of the buildings.
Yeah.
And UWO has not been receptive to that.
Okay,
So I know right now, the two counties are looking at administratively what the MOU has and the deficiencies. And we are looking at an amendment to the current MOU.
so we own the buildings, so shouldn't we be maintaining the physical properties? I mean,
The way the agreement was been is that they take care of the physical properties and we give them money to do that.
All right.
And this agreement
You
goes
could-
back to like 1975, I think, is that right?
Oh, it goes way back.
We're getting off track on the building assessment study, so. You're welcome.
It's coming along. Hopefully, you know, by the end of July, I'll see a copy of it. And then, in the August timeframe, we can get it to the committee to take a look at. And then at the September meeting, do you have special orders in September?
Good.
I think, you know, we'll ask to probably have it put on the special orders
That would be it.
and go over it. I don't know how long it would take to do it, so hopefully the agenda won't be too full. I don't, but I think you'll be, brought up to speed on where we are with the building.
And you've been happy with their staff and the
Oh,
people that they
very
sent
happy.
in? Okay.
Very happy. They've been very receptive, very thorough. It's a good company.
Yeah, so just again, I'm gonna say it one more time, that Mike made the decision, or we made the decision, you know, there was 3 bids. And, you know, didn't pick the lowest bidder on this, you know, and able to do that because it was through an RFP. So,
And what they will be doing now is they are going to take a look at the jail, and they do what's called retro commissioning. They will go back to the way the building was designed to be operated and make sure that the building's operating the way it's supposed to, and that we're maximizing any energy efficiency that we can. So that should be starting here in the next little bit.
I didn't mean to create an agenda.
no, well, that's why we can, you know, all good. all
But
good.
to just finish up on, well, no, I won't, that's not on the agenda.
All right, anything else on the building assessment study? Moving on to discussion of 980 housing project.
There are just a few projects in my career here that have been the bane of my existence. We finally, on, what is today, Wednesday? I think Friday afternoon, we got everything approved by the city that we can get the permit with. So, we've talked to the contractor and everything. We'll be pulling the permits. We should be able to move the dirt. We should be able to start building on it. And we're hoping to get it done this fall.
And who is the contractor?
RJM. They did the work for the original trailer. So it's going right along. We've had a hearing with the judge, and he is satisfied with our progress.
That was
So-
last week.
Yeah. Last week. And so hopefully, you know, in the next week or two, you'll see bulldozers out there starting to move dirt.
Awesome.
Good.
The approval process through the city was a challenge.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they pretty much gave us carte blanche on that.
Oh,
No, They,
Maybe it was
with the
planning
idea.
commission.
but what we started the plan and site review process February 7th is when we said it. And at that time, they had a policy and a practice that they would not review plans until it said for construction. And usually you don't have drawings for construction until after the bid comes in. So it's like, they don't look at anything until after the bid comes in. And it's like they've had 6 or 7 kicks at the cat, and every time they come back with little bits of changes. And it's like, you just looked at it. I don't want to go into the details, but it was a challenge. And there were some points where the architect just said they're flat out wrong. But we'll make this change because we're not going to delay the project with an argument. And it didn't really affect us that much. So just change it.
Anybody else on a 980?
That'll be good. Just 3 homes now or 3?
Three homes plus the trailer.
Anybody else? Moving on to discussion on boathouse project.
The boathouse,
Another
another one. The dredging's all done. The piers and the pilings are all in. Last week they got the boat lift in. So Cardinal Construction should be getting the metal shed up. As soon as they can get it into their schedule. It hasn't started the last week. But we've asked Radke's when it's gonna go up, and we have not heard a date from them yet.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The lift, is that a power hydraulic lift,
It's a powered winch lift.
winch lift?
Yeah.
Electric power?
Yeah.
So there will be electric power to the
Yeah.
shed then?
There was power to it originally,
How much what's the service gonna be coming in there?
probably 100 AM.
Really? That'll handle it?
Should.
Okay.
Still saying you end the summer on this?
Could be. I mean, they're just putting up a metal garage right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the boathouse? Moving on to director report on department operations.
We're moving right along. We've got the list of projects. I don't know if there's anything that you want to speak about specifically. We talked about the boathouse, the elevator.
Historical marker is complete.
It's up.
Complete?
Yes, it is up.
It
You all
is-
can go out and drive by and see it.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
I know, Andy Last, my superintendent's working with Randy Dormer
Oh,
to determine a date for dedication.
Hmm.
And once that's determined, we'll,
Crack a champagne bottle all over it, huh?
please don't, because they'll probably bend.
And exactly, where is it now?
If you go, it's easiest to access it from Highway
Okay,
A. You go in the Highway A entrance to, Parkview, it's on the left.
Yeah.
Where they have, it's like a picnic pavilion,
okay.
where the old pavilion used to be.
Mhm.
It's right there, right by the road.
Okay.
So there's parking across Butler Avenue for people to park there. And it's laid out in the manner that the Historical Society wanted it. So when you stand at it, it's actually gonna be at an angle because you'll be able to look out over the area that.
Where the
it
pork
used to
farm
be.
was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it took 4 years, but it's intended in purposes
Yeah.
there.
4 years?
At
Just
least
about.
4 years.
Just about. It started before COVID.
Yes. And budget looks good, Mike?
So far.
USDA proposal, anything new?
I'm working on that right now. We got the bids in. The second round of bids actually came in lower, than the first one.
That because they wanted less done?
No, they wanted more done, but we got more than one bidder this time. So, the low apparent bidder is Greenwood Management, Project Management. They did the work for us in the King Building for the DA's remodeling. They did good work for us. They were good to work with. So I'm assuming that they'll do good work with this. I am behind schedule getting the revised leasing information to the USDA. But I'm working on it. Their paperwork is incredibly complicated.
But they should be happy to.
They'll,
Yes.
well, we'll see how much less it is for. Cause, I've gotta send an email off to her and just see if, I don't recall now that the time is gone, I've, looked at it 15 times. I don't know if there's an escalator for the rent every year, so I'm gonna have to figure out how we give them a monthly rate or a yearly rate for our multi-years if I have to build in a 7% increase in utilities every year. So I don't know how I'll do that. I may end up having to project it out 10 years and then say, okay, at year 5, this is what the rent should be. So the first 4 years, we're going to make money on it. In the last 4 years, we'll probably not break even, but over the 10 years, we'll break even.
Do they pay the utilities on that?
That's in the rental
Did
cost.
you do it as an expense reimbursement?
No, they want it as part of the rent. Just like they want maintenance and all the rest of it, I have to give them a line
You gotta give
item.
them net lease.
Yeah,
So they have to project that out and build it into the net lease. rate.
yeah. And one of the suggestions I'm gonna make to the county executive, is that we may look at somebody with leasing experience. We need to either contract with somebody and have them on retainer to negotiate leases for us. Or hire somebody on board that has it. I don't know, but I know I don't have leasing experience. And my whole real estate experience is buying 3 or 4 homes that I've had. And signing a lease when I rented, years ago. It may, like I said, the paperwork that they've got us doing is significant. And having to come up with the costs and how to justify it for their terms is not something that's really easy to do. And like, I know airport does leases, I do leases, it may be worthwhile to hire a firm that would come in and have them negotiate leases for us. We've got cell tower leases for UW Fox and us and airport. And
Did you hire a county employee or would you do it?
I don't know, that's
Contract.
just something I gotta put a bug in the ear of the county executive that I don't have the experience negotiating leases. And it's not just here, this is, here's what we want to charge you for rent. And they agree to it. No, they've got
It's kind of.
5 or 6 different forms that I've got to fill out and justify costs to come up with the lease number that they'll agree to. And, there's just, I'm fighting right now with the leasing firm for the tower that we've got here. The lease expires in 2035 and they want to renegotiate the lease now. And well, it's 5-year leases, but they have an option to renew to take us out to 2035. We've had
It's a lot.
the lease negotiations at UW Fox Tower, this one here. And what I found out working with Allegheny County is they had somebody in there, I don't know if it was planning zoning, her name was Kara Holman, I think, who had leasing experience and could find comparables and everything to do that. She was in economic development or something like that.
Allegheny, right?
At
Yeah,
Allegheny
they did that.
County.
I remember that. We
Um,
talked about that.
and she negotiated a better deal for us. And I responded back to this company saying, we just negotiated a contract for a tower on another one of our properties, and we would like something comparable to this. And they said, no way. And so every week I get an email and a phone call from them. Well, have you considered our options? And You know, it's like, no, because I told you what we wanted. And they're at a fraction of the cost of UW Fox. So I think we need, we need somebody with experience, whether we contract it out, hire somebody or whatever, I don't know. But I'm finding that I don't have the skills to do it. And if I don't have the skills to do it, I'm not sure that some of the other departments don't have the skills to do it. That maybe we have a centralized place to do lease negotiations and have somebody be able to corral that. Whether, you know, it probably should be in the finance department. But, you know, but that's something I gotta put a bug in the county executive's ear and see if it's something he would support or not. But I haven't talked to him about that yet. So back to your question, Jim. Yes, I'm working on the lease. They're bugging me for it now. But I've got to go through and develop a cost sheet for them. Then I have to do their remodeling sheet for them. And that's where I have to take like the schedule of values from the contractor and plug it into their formulas and then come up with the answers to go in. It's like doing a 1040 form with all the schedules.
Okay. Anybody else? The budget, kind of went over that a little bit, looking good.
Yeah, the thing that we've got a problem with is the snow plowing. For next year, we've got, highway says that they should be able to take care of our plowing. But we're still short 4 to 5 custodians that normally do the snow removal on the sidewalks. So we will probably put that out for bid again. Just because right now, the custodians, 10 people are doing the work of 20 to 30 custodians for the size of buildings we've got. To throw on them, doing snow removal is just burning them out all that much faster.
So how many people are you missing in your budget?
I am missing a carpenter, a plumber, and I think right now 4 custodians. So that's 6 people out of 39.
And so you have it in your budget to hire them, obviously, but just can't find anybody. So
Right.
if you would hire those 4 people, then you wouldn't have to, sub out that snow plowing, correct?
Correct. We did have somebody see our signs and walk in. And we've interviewed that individual. She is in the background checking, Latoya, right? We haven't gotten any news back on her. We did have, one of our employees, their son graduated from high school, wanted to come here to work for us, so he's working for us. He had a classmate, they're coming to work for us. So, you know, we're getting some people in here. And I think part of the thing that's helping us is the compensation that we've increased it.
Right.
I know in talking with UWO, they're saying they can't hire people because they can't pay them enough. You know, and it's, you know, you need to look at that then, UWO. I've also pointed out to them that they have like 6 HVAC technicians at the main campus. And I said, you know, the memo of understanding says you'll provide those people. It doesn't say where you'll get those people. So, you know, why can't you borrow people from the main campus to come and troubleshoot some stuff?
Yeah.
And they're reluctant to do that. So, but we're moving right along. We've got a bunch of projects. The evidence garage. We've had an increase in scope of work with that. When that project was presented to us, it was just gonna be a cold storage building and a place to park the vehicles. You know, and then the county executive said, no, it'd be a good place for a morgue because we're having a problem with it. We added that on there. But you know, now the scope of work is more than just a cold storage building, and it's gotta be big enough to move semis in there that are being retained as evidence. So, you know, we approached the state about getting another access off of Jackson Street. We can't do that. So it's that whole stretch of Jackson Street is restricted, and so is a portion of Highway Y up to where probably the highway shop driveway is. It's restricted. So we're looking at, so the change of scope now is we gotta figure out how we're gonna get a semi into the area that we find is the right place for the morgue in the building. So
Which side of the sheriff's office
it's between the sheriff's department and the transfer station.
behind it?
No, off of Jackson. That's why we were gonna say, we can just come off of Jackson, it'd be a lot easier,
So,
but it's, we can't do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, why can't we do that? That's where
It's
the 980
restricted.
building
it's
is.
a highway.
No,
That whole field is owned by us, isn't it?
yes,
Well, we
but the
can't
state
do-
owns the right of way. And the state has restricted access off of Jackson Street to go into the property.
Off a commercial street like that?
Yeah,
It's a
The
highway.
State Highway 45?
Oh, okay.
No, it's
76.
76.
Yeah, used to be 45.
But yeah, I had a good discussion with, the DOT engineer up there. And he looked into it really well, and we can't do it. So we have to figure out how we're gonna get the trucks in there.
They couldn't come down Y? We own Y.
Yeah, but they'd have to go all the way down to the highway shop and come in. And then once you get in there, how do we get them to the parcel that we've got there? So that's what we're looking at right now.
Miller Road or frontage road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep, that's what we're looking
It's
at.
on Y, which is our property.
well, he's saying you can do Y.
But you can do Y, but the thing is that the best access is off of
Yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah,
But we can't because it's.
I can understand,
Put in for a
And,
variance.
but Y is,
why is restricted also?
from who? By who?
The state,
Y, it's not theirs. It's ours. The highway.
it's
their
restricted. So,
It's the perfect
That's-
location.
That's
For the
22.
morgue.
yeah,
Yeah, that's why.
that's why,
Access, issue resolution came before the board the other month. It was so critical. I mean, that was
and that's,
stepping on
that
toes.
explains why we did not get access for a driveway to the mobile home. We had to come off the driveway from highways. It is because the access is restricted. And it's not something that the county can unrestrict.
All right, anybody else? Moving on to suggestions for items for the next meeting agenda.
I suggest, well, I don't know if that's gonna get approved or not, but I guess we can go from 4 to right down to 11.
Well, number 6 for sure, because we're gonna review Douglas and Brown
Yeah,
and 307. Not sure if we need to-
And then you said 5.
well, we might not need 4.
I say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
Definitely. Sounds like 10 is. Big guys on it.
well,
Yeah.
then,
You get an update on it, right?
yeah, it would be definitely, but then we still need to redo that.
5 through 10?
On the 26th.
I would, yes, I would propose that, but somebody's gonna be seeing the mouse in Florida on that date. Ask this committee if they would be all right if we move the meeting to the 19th of July.
It's on there.
Yeah, it's the week before.
Before.
Solid waste as their meeting. Just ask them to make sure it's always on the third, because theirs is today too.
Okay,
I can't.
Well, I can
it's
say
gonna be
that.
me or you.
25th is okay.
Well, the one, 19, it's either him or you,
Right.
so one of you are not gonna be here, so.
But their meeting's at 9 too, huh?
Yeah. 10 o'clock, yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna be gone that whole next week, so.
Oh, the 20, oh,
Yeah, that's an EAA week too,
oh.
on that,
Yeah.
on the 26th, so.
Yeah, so that's a bad time.
All right, well, the next
So we'll
meeting's gonna
make
be
it-
7/19, 9 o'clock, same place here.
Okay.
right, is there a meeting to adjourn or?
So moved.
So,
So moved.
all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I guess it was a big thing, 'cause that's the second time they've done that. They put it on the